Hello! So, as you can see, I'm working on a granny square blanket, and I'm right in the middle of seaming all my squares together. So I thought I'd pop on here and show you how I'm doing this solid slip stitch seam. It's done by working into the back loops of the stitches on my granny squares, while holding the working yarn in back. It gives this nice knit look slip stitch on the front, and it's pretty seamless on the back. It's got some stretch to it, and it's just a really thick, solid seam, which makes it perfect for granny squares. So if you want to join two granny squares together, you're going to line them up like so, with the right sides facing. And by right sides, I just mean the side where the stitch is kind of facing towards you, and it's really well defined. Now your granny square might be a little different. Mine has 2 chains in the corners. So I'm going to line my corners up and work into the back loop of the second chain on one granny square, the back loop of the second chain on the other granny square, reach down into those stitches and pull up my working yarn. And now you're fastened on. Now you can start your first slip stitch by working into the back loop of the first stitch on one granny square, down into the back loop on the first stitch of the opposite granny square, hold your working yarn in back, and pull up a loop through all 3 stitches on your hook. I'll show you that one more time. You'll always work down into the stitches, hold your working yarn in the back of your squares, just slip stitch across. And if you're wondering what it looks like to join a new square in the middle of your work, pretend this triangle here is a whole square. I've got my active loop on my hook, and I'm just going to add the new square with the exact same process. I'm going to work into that second chain in the corner of my granny square. I'm going to work into the second chain of my new granny square. And pull up a loop through all 3 hooks. And now your new granny square is fastened on too. Then you can just continue working into the back loops of every stitch. And slip stitch down the length of your granny square. This method works for solid granny squares as well. You can see what a nice, thick, secure seam it makes that's still got plenty of stretch and drape. You may be wondering how many stitches you need to make for each seam. Literally just go 1 for 1 every stitch that you see and match it up with the corresponding stitch on the other granny square. And that's how you can keep track as you go along, making sure your squares are lined up. And now's a good time as any to mention that this mitered granny square blanket pattern you see me working on here is a new paid pattern that's available on my blog if you're interested in checking that out. I'll have it linked down below. So I hope you like this little granny square seaming tutorial and put it to good use. Thanks for watching. Bye!